Your boy Lone Wolf, man. We back with another episode of To Be Blunt. I believe it's episode 3, but this time we're gonna talk mental health in the artist community, different ways of dealing with mental health, how you as an artist can basically express yourself in non-volatile ways, how I deal with it myself. A lot of times, especially in music, man, you go through a lot of shit and people don't really speak on it too much. But as an artist, man, a lot of shit weighs heavy on you, and you don't like to talk about that shit a lot. And some people feel like in the music you're gonna express it, and that you're gonna get everything out through music, but that's not always the case because, like with me myself, I don't say everything I be feeling in music, and I don't say everything I want to say in music sometimes. And sometimes it might not just be, it just ain't hitting. Like this shit just don't sound right. Or you just haven't found a way to accurately put that shit into your music. And so it doesn't really translate well to the audience, so nobody really understands. And then you could even be like somebody like The Weeknd, who he basically put his heart into every song, and he tell you what's fucked up in every song, but ain't nobody reaching out to him like, hey, you okay? Just because he's talking about popping pills and shit of this all. Ain't nobody asking him if he's really okay or not. And a lot of times artists, we don't really want to admit that, especially as rappers, because everybody got this bravado image, and they gotta look tough and shit like that. And don't nobody want to be like, yeah, bro, I'm actually hurting and shit. Like, oh, I don't feel good, or something's going on in my life, and they don't want to speak on it, so they just start doing wild shit. Like, they be violent, or niggas just start doing drugs and shit. Niggas just start robbing people. And a lot of times motherfuckers just don't really know how to properly express themselves without using anger. And depression plays a big part because don't nobody like talking about it. And when you don't talk about it, it builds anger. And when it builds anger, you do wild shit. But shout out to everybody on Instagram right now, man. Y'all just tuning in to the podcast, man. We're doing a podcast on mental health right now. Everybody on YouTube is already caught up on this shit, but y'all joining in on Instagram and everything don't really know about it. But like I was saying, dude, me as an artist and me dealing with mental health and depression and shit like that, I don't know. It's kind of like a catch-22 type thing. Like, it's either you going to get through it and you're gonna be fine, you're gonna come up with ways to figure out your problem or get through whatever situation you're going through, or you're gonna figure out your downfall, and that's gonna be something that you struggle with for a long time, and you're just gonna have to figure out a way to shake the shit off. Like a lot of people have, there's always somebody who went through a similar situation that you're going through, and it's always good to reach out to people and to get information and to actually want to be open to learning how to deal with your depression or anger or anxiety, shit like that. Like, especially me, I never really thought about going to see a therapist or nothing like that. So until recently, that's when I started thinking about seeing a therapist, and it wasn't on like some like super depressed shit, but a motherfucker really just wanted to like go at least like have some type of communication and dialogue with somebody who could accurately understand without a biased point of view. Let me type that in. Basically didn't have a biased point of view of me, didn't really have a predetermined mindset of who I was gonna be as a person and shit like that. And sometimes as friends, you can go to friends to get information, and they might tell you some shit that's valuable sometime, but a lot of times you're gonna run into the friends that like, they just gonna tell you whatever you wanna hear, and they gonna say whatever they think you should hear, or do whatever you persuade them to do also, even though you looking at them for guidance and you looking at them for some type of clarity, because a lot of people wouldn't be in prison right now if their homie would have just actually took the situation for what it was and realized man, my dude's angry right now, my dude's going through some shit, and if I can prevent him from reacting off those feelings, then he won't be in the situation. But it's a rarity to find people like that, because there's not too many people who are just going to convince you not to do some fuck shit. Hold on, y'all. Like I said, man, for those on Instagram, this is an episode of To Be Blunt. Y'all on the podcast with your host, Lone Wolf, man. But back to what we were saying, dude. Some ways that I handle, I guess, depression or social anxiety or anything like that, because I make music, but I don't even like being in crowds. Like, I don't like to be around a lot of people all the time, and I don't like to really socialize too much. Like, I'm a very sociable person, like I can be, but at the same time, I don't want to always be out there exposed, because it makes you feel vulnerable. And like, yeah, motherfuckers can thrive in discomfort and shit like that, but at the same time, you don't want to basically leave yourself out there to just be predetermined by everybody else, you know. And as artists, they want you to be vulnerable and open and show your whole life and stuff. And like, I've already went through the social media phase of putting everything on there and stuff like that, and that doesn't really help you mentally, and it doesn't really allow everybody else to really see what you're going through, because you're just putting out there whatever you want to put out there and what you choose to put out there. You're not telling everybody your ups and downs or your wins and losses. And so a lot of times, man, like, motherfucker might go exercise, motherfucker might go to the studio, do something physically exhausting just to get that out the way. Like, when I was younger, to relieve anger and depression and stuff like that, a motherfucker just really like to hit shit. Like, a motherfucker liked football, or like any type of contact sport, because at the end of the day, you physically exhausted and you're not really feeling like that. It's like that depressed feeling no more, and you're not really feeling, because it takes a lot of energy to be angry. Yeah, I smoke and shit, so I be relaxed and shit, because it takes a lot of energy to be angry all the time. Like, it takes a lot of willpower to want to stay in a state of depression. And a lot of people feel like it's just something that came onto them and they can't handle it, and there is no outlet to relieve this chain of depression. But really, it's not something that just happened to you and it's just never gonna go away. It's something that you can work towards, just like anything else. You can work towards a better mental health standing. You can work towards being a positive person, a positive thinker. And pretty much you can work towards being a better person in general. And in turn, that helps you with mental anxiety and depression and stuff. And I'm not a doctor or nothing, but I tend to be around a lot of shit. I tend to be around a lot of shit and a lot of people who have went through similar things that I went through. I appreciate everybody that came on the live and shit. But yeah, like I was saying, man, some different outlets for people who aren't really on the creative side, that want to relieve some type of stress, mental health problem, or anxiety, depression, shit like that. You really got to find something that you find interesting. It may not always be fun at first, I guess, because everybody always tells you, go find something fun to do to take your mind off things. And sometimes that temporary relief isn't a permanent problem. So yeah, you can go find shit fun to do, but that's not going to be something to do all the time, because you're not going to be having fun all the time doing the same shit. And you could just fall back into a state of depression anyway. So a lot of times you got to find something that's constructive and that makes your mind want to challenge itself and go to the next step. It makes you want to figure out more about this subject or this thing that you're doing, and it keeps you away from even the thought of being depressed, because being depressed to me was like a constant stage of, like, you'll go through ups and then you move around, you find, and the next thing you know, for some reason you just thinking just negative, and you just always down, and you just always feel like you at a low point. And a lot of times that is the cause of motherfuckers to just wild out and do some foul shit, or sometimes hurt themselves or anything like that, or hurt the people around them. And yeah, you just really gotta find something that's like, it takes your mind off of things, but it leads it down a different path. You gotta rewire your brain type shit. Like, sometimes you gotta just like take those things that you go through, rewire yourself, and go to being somebody else, or go to thinking something else. Like, for example, if a motherfucker is so tired of being overweight, and they tired of not being able to get out of bed and shit, or move around, play with their kids or whatever, the only way to get out of that is to rewire your way of thinking to where now you're going to start working out. Now you're going to be able to do the things you wanted to do with your kids because you changed the way you thought. Just like being mentally depressed and anxious and social anxiety and shit is a thinking process. You can actually think yourself into a deeper hole, or you can figure out different ways of expressing yourself or relieving yourself to where now you can think in another way. Now you can go out and move in a different way. Like with music, like I told you, I don't really like crowds of people like that, and I really don't like being super social and like with a large amount of people at once. Like, I can deal with one-on-one interaction, but I'm not trying to just like deal with the massive amount of people that come my way. And as an artist, it's kind of different to think like that, because the more famous you get as an artist, the more people that's gonna try to bother you, and that's something that I'm gonna have to deal with. So that's just one way of looking at it. Is okay, you don't like a lot of people, you want to be famous, so that brings a lot of people. So you're basically asking for this mental anxiety that you don't want. And that's what a lot of artists do. We're asking for a lot of shit that mentally we don't really want, but at the same time we know that it's going to have a better outcome for other people. And that's where it gets to the point of you're taking risk with your own life and your own mental stability just to sustain other people or to reach some goal or anything like that.